Browns play the Ravens this week, and this is an interesting week. And for interesting weeks and the Ravens, I usually bring in my guy, Graven. Graven, how are you doing right now, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm healthy, grateful. Um and that's sort of depending on which player you're talking about, that's sort of the status of the Baltimore Ravens right now too. Healthy for the most part, and grateful.
I was about to
Especially for the
say,
position that they're in right now.
I know how the Ravens be at this time of the year. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Engraven end up on the injury report. You know what I mean? Uh, but it's been interesting, right? Because this year feels so much like a repackage of last year. Because the Bengals are surging again in the same
Yeah.
way. The Ravens are in the same position they were in last year, except for now they have the extra win, which is going to get them above 500, which is key. But Lamar's out; he's kind of day to day. That whole thing. There's been questions of will Lamar come? Like, is it a guarantee that Lamar comes back this year for the
Mhm.
Ravens because of the whole contract situation, right? Like,
Mhm.
where are you at with that? Do you think this is going to be kind of day to day? How much do you feel like he feels he has to be back in order to play? Like, you think he's going to come back if he's like 75%?
What is it's a PCL injury. So I think he would need to be like at least like 80, 85, as close to 100 as you want to be, especially given the situation for his present and for his future too. Um, I know that there's some talks from some people thinking that Lamar with the whole contract situation, he might just sit out for the rest of the year. And I could see why people say that, but at the same time, I don't think that's what it's going to be, especially because if if and when he can come back, I think he definitely will, especially because of Ravens' positioning right now, and his positioning on trying to get paid. Whether it ends up being by the Ravens, hopefully it does. We'll see. Or if he just put on a display for whoever his next team could be. Because if and when he comes back, like Ravens are in a good spot right now. They're in a really good spot, despite all the issues, despite all the people who have been injured back and forth, despite everything. The fact that they're sitting at 9-4 right now and 3-0 in the division as of right now is a beautiful thing. So regardless of how this game goes against the Browns, because it obviously could go either way, especially since he isn't playing, then I think that he's going to want to come back and really just try to carry this team as far as he possibly can, because you got playoffs on the line. Like last year was obviously a lot different because they got to 8-3, and then everything just went downhill from there. And he got hurt; he was out for the rest of the year. But it's you know what? That was kind of crazy. I didn't think about that till just now. Last year when he got hurt, it was in a Browns game,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Jock. Jock took him out for the rest of the year. But I know Browns just put Jock on injury reserve, so now he's out for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's like, and no, and I'm not making fun of the injury, so don't get that twisted. Anybody who would think that, but it's like it's like a complete opposite from last year, because last year, that's when the Ravens were obviously they were trending down, and it just they didn't win another game. But this year, at this same position and just going against the Browns around the same time, it's they're trending in a completely different direction, and that's without Lamar right now. So this game will be very big, because it is a division game, and it is just a game for that can help or hurt their standings in the AFC overall. But I think he'll definitely be back, and I think he will definitely play when he's healthy enough to play, because it's just too much on the line right now. It's too much riding on this game and this season on the line for him to sit out.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's kind of been the thorn in the side for the Ravens, which I don't think a lot. Well, I think some people did expect, but not in the way that it's kind of manifested. Is recently it's been hard for the Ravens to get the offense that they want, right? Like they had one game over 20 points. The last 4 games, if you look at it, 13 points versus the Panthers. They had the 27 against the Jaguars, but they lost the game. Broncos, Ravens, 10-9. And these are both games, all three of them, where Lamar Jackson did play. Then this game recently where it's 16-14, where, I mean, like Anthony Brown had to play like a whole half of football. So there's a reason for that. And I do believe Tyler Huntley will be back for this game, as you mentioned. So, what's been going on with that Ravens offense? Because especially like when Lamar's there, it's like, why is it bad right now?
Man, I don't know, man. It's almost like, man, like if we score like a small amount of points, then we win. But it's like the more we score, we end up losing. But with the offense, it's been an issue for a lot of the year, especially once Rashad Bateman went down. This was my biggest concern, man. My biggest concern going into this season was at the receiver position, because I just didn't want the Ravens to go into this season with so little experience at receiver position and just so much uncertainty. Because there was a lot of unproven guys there. There's a Rashad Bateman, who was in his second year. There was James Prochet Duvernay, who were both in their third year. And that's before we had even signed DeMarcus Robinson. And he's been a pleasant surprise for the most part. But Ravens just lack that outside explosiveness. And with Mark Andrews has like pretty much been on lock by most teams, because they don't have to worry about anybody else. They can focus on Mark Andrews and take him out the game. Well, passing wise, they can focus on Mark Andrews and take him out the game and be like, all right, who else is going to beat us? And it doesn't really end up being anybody else. The Ravens run game, the run game has, especially when Ronnie Stanley plays, it's a lot better. It does really good there. And we literally just got J.K. Dobbins back this week against the Steelers. And he went off. I was surprised that he even got that much of a workload, especially his first game back from after he had a little cleanup surgery. But with the offense, they haven't been able to finish. That's been their thing. It's just been, a lack of finishing. And with the Ravens offense, sometimes they'll move the ball and then stuff will just stall out. They'll settle for a field goal. It'll be Lamar. He's missed some throws. Sometimes the receivers. There's just been a lack of chemistry, I think, with him and the receivers too. Because there'll be times when he may have some overthrows, but there'll also be times when the receivers, they'll end up slowing up for the ball and they'll miss time a jump, or they'll miss time a step or something, and it can ruin everything like that. So this offense they have not been in sync. And I think it hurts even more when I feel like everything, as far as receive, everything has to be like perfect. Everything has to be really perfect because we don't have that guy at the receiver position. We got him at tight end, but since we got him at tight end and we don't have him anywhere else, everybody can focus on that tight end and do everything that they can to take him out of the game. So in the Ravens, a lot of times when it comes to play calling, sometimes they don't do themselves favors with just establishing weapons and establishing other guys as weapons. There can be times like when Devin Duvernay, he's probably been the best example of it this year, to where there will be a game where he's just going off. They're giving him passes. They also got him involved in the running game because they do a lot of jet sweeps with Devin Duvernay, give him some screens and whatnot. They have him involved going crazy, and then the next week, nothing. It'll be crickets. And one of the worst parts about it is that it won't even be that the defense that the Ravens are going against are dictating what Devin Duvernay does. It'll be the Ravens are just not involving him like that. So I think that's an issue. That's been a big issue this year too. Just the lack of consistency in building playmakers. So Ravens, they really got to hope like they could catch stride, especially once Lamar gets back, or else it's just going to be a lot of the same old stuff. And these low scoring games in the regular season, hey, you're getting by with it, which is great. A win is a win, and a win anytime is a win. But in the playoffs, it's not going to cut it. The offense has got to be a lot better, a whole lot better. And I mean, I think we're also really seeing the lack of resources put into the offense by the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's definitely been showing in a big way.
I mean, when you got 4 wide receivers and 2 of them are Demarcus Robinson and Deshaun Jackson, and like I've seen Deshaun Jackson out there actually like play, that's when I'm like, oh wow. They're at like there either is a bunch of injuries going on or they didn't do anything at that position. What number they got Deshaun Jackson with out there, like 15 or something like that? Yeah, they got Deshaun Jackson out here wearing the 15. Running routes. Man. I was like, what in the world is going on over there? But yeah, it is interesting because the Ravens, they kind of went all in on defense. We're going to talk about the defensive side in this ball. Obviously, Pat Queen, he's been playing well. Roquan Smith has been helping him, I would assume, just by being there. And we know about that front seven. But the one question with this team has been this year, kind of focused on Marcus Peters, right? Like if there's been one area where you can kind of point to where they kind of gave it up on the defensive side in certain games, you can go Marcus Peters in the Jaguars game. Marcus Peters kind of got picked on the last time the Browns played the Ravens. What's been going on with Marcus Peters?
It's so weird because, you mentioned those two. It's like with Marcus Peters, when he's having a bad this year, if he's having a bad game, he is having a bad game, and it's just all kinds of bad. And it never gets good. But when he's not having a bad game, you don't hear anything from him, which is a really good thing. And you mentioned the Jaguars game. He literally gave up 3 touchdowns in that game. Now, one of them, I think the Jaguars wide receiver foot was out of bounds, but that's in the past. But and then in the Browns game, I remember at the very end, he actually gave up what was a go-ahead touchdown for the Browns, but they ended up calling it back. I think they called offensive pass interference. I think it was Amari Cooper, but whoever it was. But yeah, in that game, he struggled big time. There was an article that came out a couple weeks ago. Because I questioned the timing of the article because I was just wondering, because it's just funny because in the article, it talked about how Marcus Peters, like how he was second guessing himself after the surgery he had last year because he tore his ACL last year. And because I wondered if they put out that article since he had been struggling. I wonder if it was the article because, sometimes with journalists and stuff, they'll go have an interview with a player and they can wait to put out an article. It could be an interview from months ago and then they drop the article a little while later. But anyway, he said in that article how he was second guessing himself. And that does happen. With players coming back from a major type of injury like that and major type of surgery like that. A lot of times they say it takes about a year to really be all the way back. But with Marcus Peters, it's been an up and down season. Because like I said, the down moments, they're really down. They're bad, but when he's up, he's up. So hopefully in this game, it could be one of his up moments. Good thing we do have Marlon Humphrey, because overall he's been having a phenomenal season. It's probably been the best season that I've ever seen him have in a Ravens uniform, even with some hiccups that he's had along the way, but he's been overall phenomenal. But Marcus Peters, unless they do like a super, super friendly team deal, I think this will be his last year with the Ravens. And that's tough because Marcus Peters, just his energy alone, man, that's something that it cannot be duplicated or replicated by anybody else. And that's something that I feel like this team needs more of. Guys like that are like that, with that energy, with that vibe, with that, just that dog, man. Well, no pun intended, going against the Browns. But I feel like Marcus Peters he's just different, man. But it's not just about your energy, it's about your play too. And for the Ravens, I could see them going in a different direction. I could see them drafting a cornerback early. Because Marcus Peters is just, and hopefully maybe because he's not all the way back yet. Maybe that's it. But if you're out there on the field, if you're playing, then hey, you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready and you gotta be right. And there's been a lot of times where he just hasn't been right here. So hopefully he can continue his streak of quiet games. Again, against the Broncos, he was pretty quiet. Against the Steelers, he was pretty quiet overall. He did have a couple of missed tackles. And see, that's the thing with Marcus Peters. That can be so frustrating because he can play, when he plays, he can play. When he's on, he's on. But then he can have these moments where there can be like this lack of physicality, where he won't want to be physical. Because I remember in 2019 season where Ravens went 14-2 in a playoff game against the Titans. Titans' first drive on offense. This dude, one-on-one, no help, nothing. Now, Derrick Henry, he wasn't looking at him directly, but so it's kind of blindside. But Marcus Peters tackled Derrick Henry by himself. And I know, like, saying that out loud, it doesn't even sound like it's believable, but he did it by himself. So there will be these moments.
Had to be. Earl Thomas was like, no way.
Well,
I ain't seen Earl Thomas since that.
Well, that was it. That was it.
Or did that happen before? Did that happen before Earl Thomas went for that tackle, and that's what gave him the pride?
It happened before. It happened before the whole.
He was like, "Hey man, MP got him. I'ma get him." Oh no!
Yeah, that was ugly. That was embarrassing. But to see Marcus Peters being capable of something like that, and then to see him like sort of play two-hand touch with some players, it can be one of the frustrating things. Because again, like I said, when he's on, he's on. But then when he's off, he's off in a major way. So I'm hoping that this is not a repeat of the last Browns game with Marcus Peters, because that was rough, man. That was really, really, really rough. Amari Cooper he was dogging Marcus Peters. So we'll see how this game goes.
It's going to be interesting to see. One of the things that's different about this game is the quarterback position, right? Jacoby Brissett was in there last time. Now it's Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson looked a lot closer to his normal self last week versus a very good Cincinnati defense. How does his presence change how you think the Ravens are going to be willing to attack this Browns offense?
Oh, I think it changes everything, because there's that respect. I think they would have more respect for Deshaun Watson as a football player, just based off of everything that he's done in the NFL thus far. And while he's still getting back to himself, he's not there yet, but this could be another step in the right direction for him as far as being back to his normal Deshaun Watson self. Now, Ravens do have really good experience against Deshaun Watson. Remember a couple years ago in the COVID year, they played him. They took care of business. He threw. Marcus Peters caught a pick on him. So, hey, that'd be nice to get a nice little repeat. And then in 2019, we played Deshaun Watson. I think it was 35-7 or something like that. It's a blowout. So that'd be nice if both of those games repeated themselves. But Deshaun Watson just brings another element. Obviously, he can throw the ball anywhere on the field. But him as a runner, too. I think he's more of a threat as a runner than a Jacoby Brissett is. Now, Jacoby Brissett, he'll scramble or whatnot, but he ain't like taking off. He's not like an
RPO
he'll catch you with those
run guy,
yeah. He'll catch you with them sneaky scrambles, like to where he's containing whatever, and then he'll just take off. But I think it's something that you're gonna be watching out for more with a Deshaun Watson. So Ravens, which has been a very pleasant surprise this season. My goodness, I'm so grateful for it, because we're so used to not having one. But the Ravens have actually had a pass rush, and that is a beautiful thing to say. We haven't been able to say that for years. But with the Ravens pass rush, and I think they sacked Jacoby Brissett 5 times in that Browns game last time. So it's going to be really important for that pass rush to really get after Deshaun Watson. I always get his name mixed up with Deshaun Jackson. I always got to make sure I stay extra focused when I say the names. But it's going to be really important for that Ravens pass rush to get after him, just to not let him be comfortable, because, again, he hasn't gotten to a full groove yet since he's been back. And you don't want to be the team that lets him get back into the groove and get really back into the swing of things. You don't want him to get his confidence back against you.
Yeah. I figure it's going to happen to somebody. I'm wondering who it's going to be. It happens against, because you can see it kind of bubbling where it's like, okay, he's just kind of figuring out the offense. He's going to have a game here where he's like just going to let it loose. But we'll see what happens on Saturday, right? I remember this game on Saturday. This is a weird. Why are we playing Saturday? Why? Because this isn't even a Christmas Day weekend, right? Like, that's usually when they have these funky Saturday sketch. NFL being weird this year. You know what I mean?
I love it.
Yeah, but it is a national TV game technically. I don't know who's on the call, but it is technically a national TV game. But Browns, Ravens, not the Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson game that we thought we were gonna get.
Nope.
But
And it's like it's crazy because we just flip flop. Our quarterbacks flip flop because last time it was Lamar versus Jacoby. Yeah. Yep. And now it's Tyler Huntley versus Deshaun.
You know what I mean? They saving it for next year, I'm guessing. This is like in wrestling, right? It's like a wrestling before the pay-per-view. If Kurt Angle got to wrestle like Shawn Michaels, they be like, okay, the Shawn Michaels not going to wrestle Kurt Angle this week, but Road Dogg from DX is going to wrestle him. It's like, oh yeah, Kurt Angle's bodyguard going to wrestle Shawn Michaels. And then they're going to have a tag team match. And then a trios match. And then a 5-man.
Like build up that storyline.
Yeah, where it's like, you know, you get everything but the match, and then the pay-per-view you finally get the match. So, you know, maybe next year.
Hopefully we get it though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe week 1, you know, like a 4:30 game. That'd be nice, you know, with next year.
Now that would depend on if Lamar's still with the Ravens though.
Oh yeah, I overlooked that.
There's that. So we'll see. Hopefully we do get it.
Never get it. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want to bring you into the twilight zone, making you think about such things.
We already there, man.
But everybody else, I want to appreciate Engraven for coming on here. Always a great guest. Make sure you check him out at Engraven Vids on YouTube. It's kind of weird to say that, but that's definitely how that works now, right? At Engraven Vids on YouTube. Yeah. Check him out. His channel covers more than just the Ravens, just football in general. He does great videos on there. Make sure you subscribe to him. He said, what, 60K? 60K? Man, crazy. So make sure you subscribe to him. And also, just want to thank Engraven for coming on, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Appreciate you having me on, man.
All right, everybody else, y'all have a great day. Have a good night. Be excited to watch this game.